Hi, and welcome to the video tutorial for the Beaches Luxury Brochure. When you first open your Canva document, you'll be directed to a page that looks like this, and you just want to hit Use Template, and that will bring this design directly into your own Canva account. And when it is brought in, it'll look exactly like this. So I'm just going to go over a few things that you can do with this template, a few things to keep in mind, and a few editing tips so that your design looks as amazing as possible. So step number one would be to import all of your photos, and if you're not familiar with Canva, you do that by heading over to this Uploads tab and then selecting Upload an image or video, finding your listing photos and uploading them. And once they're uploaded, they will look like this. And then you can just go ahead and start putting your own listing photos in. So in order to do that, you're just going to grab a photo with your mouse and hover it over the box, and it will automatically pop into place. So you don't have to worry about single clicking, which will bring the photo on top of your design. You don't really want to do that. You want to make sure that this is as streamlined as possible, and in order to make sure that it's streamlined, you just grab your photo, hover it over the photo box, and voila, it's in place. Now once you've done that, you might not like the way it's sitting within the photo box, so what you're going to do is you're just going to double click that, which opens the editor, and then you can just move it around however much room you have depending on how your photographer took the photo. So I'm just moving it around, seeing what looks best. That looks great, so I'm going to leave it like that. Now that might not be the photo that I want to use for the cover, so I'm just going to change it back to this guy. And you can just go ahead and do that for all the photos in this book. You're just going to plug and play. Now one thing that I want to draw to your attention is that the design in Canva only shows you single pages, so you're not going to see the spread. You're not going to see the double page effect that you might have seen in the artwork on Etsy. So you have to keep in mind that this is the cover page, and then this is a left page, and this is a right page. So these two will be side by side when the book is open. So that's just something to keep in mind as you're going through and designing, because it can get confusing. You're wondering, why is this big gray bar here? Well, it's there because it connects to this page here. So when it's printed, it looks really good. If you were to change this color to, let's say, a taupe, and you just leave it like that because it matches some colors in your photo here and you like the way it looks on this page, you have to remember that when you open the brochure, this page will also be there. It will be beside this one, and it's going to look a little awkward if you don't change this color as well to the taupe. So that's just something to keep in mind while you're going through and changing all the photos. Just checking to see if there's anything else I need to tell you about photos. It's pretty self-explanatory. One thing I am going to mention is, if you want to add more photos, you can do that by just highlighting a photo box, and I would just bring it up like that, and then right-clicking, copy, right-click, paste, and then you have an identical box that you can place right below it. And you can adjust the sizing of that if you'd like. And then it's just about dropping a new photo in there. And it's really that simple. So you don't have to be limited by the design by any means. Just remember to keep in mind right and left pages to make sure that everything flows nicely. Okay, the next thing to note are colors. So I just changed a color, but if you weren't paying attention to that, you just highlight anything, any element in this design that you want to change the color of, whether it's text, shapes, or, well, I guess it's just text and shapes. So if you want to change that, you just highlight the element, head over to the color box, and then you can choose any of the default colors. You can choose photo colors, it's a really great tool because you can actually match colors that are in your photo. So if you have a really well staged property that has a lot of similar color themes throughout, what you might want to do is grab a color from the photo or a similar color that's in the photo, And then you can change that element throughout, and what it does is it really draws your attention to elements in the room. So as you can see, this is already looking really cohesive. Now the color that we chose initially, let me just go back, was complementary already, so it does already match, and gray is pretty safe. So if you're not sure what color to use, I would leave it like this, because this pretty much is universal. It's going to go with everything or anything, but you always have that option to change it to something that brings more attention to your listing. If you have your own brand colors that you need to use, you do that by heading over to New Color, and you can put the hex code directly in here, and that's how you would change the color there. You also have the option of just moving this slider and choosing any color that you like. For the purpose of this tutorial, we're just going to leave it as is. The same goes for text. So if you want to highlight the text in a text box, you can go over to the text editor here, and you can change the text to anything here. If you have a pro account, there's a lot more options, but there's still plenty of options on the Canva free account. And you can play around with the text here. If you have your own brand font, this is where you would type it in here. And you can just find it that way. Now, something else about text that I want to draw your attention to is if you have a longer street name, like, what's a long street name? So if you have a longer street name like Eglinton, Avenue, and you can see it's not really, you don't want it on 2 lines, that's okay. You're just going to head up to this spacing tab, and you're going to adjust the spacing of the lettering. You can do that like this, and if you don't like that, you always have the option of reducing the font size and then adjusting the spacing again. So, like that. Okay, so that's how you would adjust that. You can also change the color of this if you want to maybe a gray instead of a white. And any element can be deleted or changed. So if you're not happy with this line here, you can just delete on your keyboard and remove all the elements that you don't want. So this is where your brokerage information would go. You can change this to your own tagline. Anything, if you have write-ups that you'd like on each page, you can change this to, instead of main floor, you can have a little write-up here about the property, but we did include this main floor highlight, so you can even do this here. So instead of this point form, so if you don't want it to be point form, you can just highlight all this text, delete it, and then type your copy here. This majestic home sits on 43 acres of prime land. And then you can just adjust the box to make sure that it doesn't leak out. And again, if you don't like the spacing between the lettering, just make sure to highlight that and then head over here, and you can reduce that to fit more text if you need it. You can also see how there's a lot of space in between lines here. Well, that's where you would head over to line height, and you can adjust that as well. And then you can just keep typing. You can put as much or as little information as you'd like, and just make sure that you're not reducing the font size to anything less than, I would say 10 point is still really small. I would keep it at 12. That just makes it a lot easier to read for everybody, and you're not, having people grab their glasses or struggling with the text. So 12 is a really safe font size for that. So another thing to note is sometimes you might want to add a transparency effect, and you can do that by highlighting any box that you want to add transparency to and hitting this transparency tab, and just reducing the transparency of that box. And that just allows you to see the picture behind it. So if you'd like something that's a little bit more whimsical like that, then that's how you would do it. As for the floor plans, the trick that I use for floor plans, and I'm wondering if you can see it here. Yeah, okay. So the trick that I use for floor plans is I upload it once. So you have to change this into an image. And if you don't have an image, if you don't have like a JPEG or a PNG file for this, there are a couple ways that you can change that over online for free. But you can also ask the person who provided you with your floor plans to provide you an image file. You can upload that to Canva once, and then what I like to do is drag that floor plan over. So let me just see if I have it in my uploads. Or if I delete, oh, there they are, perfect, perfect, perfect. So what I like to do is take these floor plans and drag them over to the box. And then if you double click on this box, it opens the photo editor. And you can move to whichever floor you're speaking about. And then you just make sure to make it large enough. And then you can adjust the box around it. And there we go. And that is how I would do it, just to make sure that it's as simple as possible. Okay. Now, you can see on the lower level, I'm going to double click that, and you can again move it over to whichever level you need, and then just change the binding box, this outer box, to frame it perfectly. So it's really as easy as that. It's very straightforward. Now it comes the fun part. You're going to want to change your agent banner, and a lot of people don't have a picture that doesn't have a background. So in Canva, you have the option of deleting the background of your photo if you have the pro version. If you don't have the pro version, head over to 4thstreetcreative.com/tutorials, and you will find a tutorial teaching you how to remove the background of your headshot online for free. I think it's marked how to remove your background. It's not hard to find. If you just go to 4thstreetcreative.com/tutorials, you'll find it there, and that will walk you through the process of removing your background. The one that's provided by Canva is so great. If you don't have a pro account, this is a reason to get it, but you absolutely don't need it. And then that's how you would remove the background, so you can maintain this effect. But if you don't want this effect, or you don't care to have it, I'm just going to show you what you can do with your headshot that has a background in it. Let me just quickly find one. Let's use this guy. Okay, so I'm just going to bring my agent headshot in. I'm going to grab it by the corner to resize it. And then I'm just going to scoot it over to the side of the document here. I'm going to take the logo behind it and let me move this out of the way. There we go. I'm going to move this out of the way for now, and I'm going to put my agent headshot in here. Now, he's a little bit small, so I think what I want to do is just increase him. So I've double clicked on the box to increase the size of that, and now I'm going to bring him down here. Okay, now that looks good. That's a little bit big. So I'm just going to do that. And then I'm going to delete this guy. And then what I'm going to do, this is all optional. You can make this however you'd like. I'm just showing you one way so that, bring it to front, so that you have the option if you don't want to remove the background, or if removing the background is too difficult for you. I'm just going to go ahead. What I'm doing here is I'm grouping these items so I can move them all as one. So I'm selecting this box, pressing shift on my keyboard, selecting this box, pressing shift on my keyboard, selecting this box. And now I have all three selected, and I can actually group these items now so I can move them around as one. So that's a little helpful tip for you. I'm just going to put that there. And then I think what I would like to do is move this information over and change the orientation, which I'm doing up here. And then just putting that like that. I might actually put that down here, and then moving this down here. And voila, you have the correct orientation now if you just want to use your own headshot without worrying about removing the background. But just for fun, I'm going to show you how great this is at removing the background. I'm going to go to Effects, Background Remover, and we're going to let Canva remove the background from this very busy image. How cool was that? How cool was that? I mean, I work in Photoshop all the time, and I never, I can't even imagine what kind of witchcraft is happening here. So this is amazing. I absolutely love it. Bring to front, and then you can get the exact same effect as the original that I had shown you. So this is absolutely wonderful. You still have a little bit of shadow here, but you can fix that just by making him a little bit bigger and bringing it down a little bit, and then it's barely noticeable. These are all optional, of course. You can always, I did show you a way that you don't have to edit the background at all, so don't feel inclined to do that at all. Again, so I'm just going to show you here, this is a short property address, but if you had the Eglinton, all of a sudden it's not fitting on the line, so you want to drag that box out first to make sure that it fits, and then move it back over. And then here's a line that you can play with. You can just bring it directly off the canvas to give yourself room if you have a really long property address, for example. And I think that I've covered everything. If you ever have questions, you can always email us at hello@4thstreetcreative.com. And once you are ready to go and send this to your printer, what you're going to do is hit download. Then you're going to make sure that PDF print is selected. And if you're having this professionally printed, you're going to want to hit crop marks and bleed so that the printer has the crop marks and bleed ready and available. If you're going to print this at home, you don't need to check that box because you don't want those lines to show up when you print it. So before we go ahead and download that, I'm going to go to File and Show Print Bleed. Okay, and then we're going to start from the very top. And when you get this template, all of these boxes will be perfectly stretched out to the bleed, but you always want to double check this, and you want to make sure that all of your image boxes and any element is dragged out to past the dotted line, because this dotted line is where the printer is going to cut. But sometimes the cut isn't perfect, and if you have an image that's right here, for example, and the printer cuts a little on the other side of that dotted line, you're going to have this white line when it's printed, and that's not something that looks great. So you just want to go through the document and make sure that all the photo boxes bleed out. Again, when you get your template, it will be perfect, but you might adjust a few things while you're designing and not realize it. So it's always a good habit to have to go to File and Show Print Bleed. Now, one more thing before we download. When we're down here, let me just fix this quickly. You definitely want this out to the edge. When we're down here, you want to make sure on any page that your font, your text, isn't too close to the dotted line, because the printer can also cut a little bit on the other side of that dotted line, which means that your text has the possibility of being cut, and you definitely don't want that. You will be very angry if that happens, I am sure. So let's just make sure that you give a nice healthy room. I like to do at least the amount of the dotted line to the edge, which is about 1/8 of an inch. But you can do more than that to just give it more breathability and more space once it's printed. So that's it. We have a whole variety of tutorials for you at 4thstreetcreative.com/tutorials. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to email us at hello@4thstreetcreative.com. Thanks so much and happy designing.